Please help support the channel by visiting our Amazon store, affiliate link below.
Collider has an article here about the first reactions to Venom tease a mixed bag, saying that the social embargo for Venom is lifted, which means that those who have seen the film are now free to give short-form Twitter thoughts on the long-in-the-works Marvel Comics adaptation. This movie was a long time coming, with various attempts having been made over the years to bring the alien character to the big screen. Sony Pictures ultimately succeeded with Tom Hardy in the role of Eddie Brock, and Zombieland and Gangster Squad director Ruben Fleischer at the helm. Working on a script from Scott Rosenberg, Jeff Pinker, and Kelly Marcel, they crafted a Jekyll and Hyde origin story that finds the titular symbiote attaching itself to reporter Eddie Brock and wreaking havoc in San Francisco. All the while, Dr. Carter Drake, Riz Ahmed, is conducting experiments that make the symbiote all the more dangerous. Now, obviously, we can pretty much guarantee that they are going to be trying to push towards carnage. That seems to be a thing. And I find it interesting too that they're really trying to play up the fact that there's no, they're trying to avoid that there's no Spider-Man in this, that they're trying to also make it seem like, yeah, people really wanted to see this movie. Nobody wanted to see this movie. So taking a look here just at some of the reactions. The first one here from Perry Nemiroff from Collider, so it makes sense that she'd be listed first, saying significant chunks of Venom don't work at all, but there is some serious charm to the Eddie Venom relationship. Not sure it had the intended reactions to some scenes, but fun is fun, even when it's totally ridiculous. Too bad they didn't go far enough for the R rating. Well, no, I guarantee you they did. I think she knows that they did, but she can't say that. Even though there's been no direct mention from Avi Arad or Ruben Fleischer or Amy Pascal or anyone over at Sony about this being an original R-rated film, everyone knows Venom equals violence and gore and tearing limbs off and eating them. So having it be rated R just kind of seems like how they would shoot the film, and then they just carved it to a PG-13 in order to appease the wider audience and get a very solid 3-day opening numbers, which is going to, well, it's really at this point all they care about. Now, Mike Ryan here says, 2 tweets. One is, I'm fascinated with Venom. The cast seems to know all that they're all in a darker superhero movie, except Tom Hardy, who is basically remaking Jim Carrey's Liar Liar. I kind of loved watching this movie in a Rocky Horror type of way. At one point, Tom Hardy and Venom make out. Now, none of that speaks any bit of good to me. I love Rocky Horror, but not in this type of property. And based on what I've seen from Tom Hardy, he always overplays it. Like, I don't know why he keeps getting cast in many movies, to be honest with you. Now, Mike Ryan finishes up here by saying the whole movie is Venom telling Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock over and over, I'm hungry, Eddie. I want to eat a brain, Eddie. You're a loser, Eddie. You're a pussy, Eddie. That sounds like it's a good time. Nothing like being cucked and being berated by your new alien symbiote alter ego. Now, Scott Mendelson here, the #1 Disney deflector over at Forbes, says Tom Hardy's first performance in Venom is either Johnny Depp in the first Pirates of the Caribbean or Chris Klein in Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li. Either way, it's not boring. So from that, we can take a look at the fact that, well, for one, Johnny Depp in the first Pirates is amazing. It's amazing. I think many people out there figure he should have gone for Best Actor for that role. But Chris Klein in Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li, ooh, that was pretty bad. So it's a mix. It's just a mix. Esther Zuckerman here says, in the parts where Venom Eddie Brock vibe in Venom reminded me of Audrey 2 and Seymour. So what I'm saying is Venom should be a musical. Okay, going on to say that Venom is mostly just fine, but has a few moments of inspired comedy work from Tom Hardy. All right. Venom calls Eddie a pussy, which is essentially, come on, Seymour, don't be a putz. Also, the plot of this movie is outlined pretty well in finale. Don't feed the plants. So we can kind of see where that's going just in regards to, if you're looking at a Little Shop of Horrors reference, a Little Shop of Horrors comparison, don't feed the plants and don't feed the symbiote, that sort of thing, right? Don't feed the plant. Or Audrey 2. There we go. I'm trying to remember that. Anyway, Brandon Davis here from, I'm assuming, Birth Movies Death, says action highlights in Eddie and Venom's odd relationship are the highlights of Venom. But if Sony wants to move forward with the universe, it needs to keep a few parts that work and scrap a large portion which doesn't. Which basically tells me that the Eddie Venom stuff works. That works. The plot the pacing, the themes, the PG-13 rating probably don't. Because even watching the trailers for this movie all the way back in January made it look kind of lame. It did. It looked kind of lame. So ultimately, it makes sense that this is one of those situations where you're like, okay, there's some things that work and things that don't. Now, the Moth Meg here, a couple tweets from her. She says, the social embargo for Venom is up. I talk about this a lot in my review, but this is a movie that somehow slipped through a wormhole from 2004. That's my biggest take. It's a movie that spilled from the pre-MCU era through a crack of time and space. It's not a complete disaster. At least I was never mad watching it, but it is an excruciatingly surreal experience. The humor, the story beats, everything right down to the Eminem theme song feels like it emerged Kimmy Schmidt style from a sealed off 2000s bunker. Saying, I think Affleck Daredevil, Ang Lee Hulk, and think Halle Berry Catwoman. It's really all there to be said. I think it's absolutely bizarre. Either way, your mileage is really, really, really going to vary on this one. There are genuinely some echoes of clever ideas, but man, if there's one superhero franchise that's having a killer couple of years, it's Spider-Man. No matter how you slice it, Venom is a major non sequitur. So it's just, there's a lot there to digest. There really is a lot there to digest. But looking at what she basically has to say, the point I wanted to make here is that it boils down to two words: Avi Arad. Avi Arad is the exec producer on this one. He worked on so many of these films back in the day. And at this point, everyone's like, people have been saying Avi Arad needs to go for years, but he keeps hanging on like a turd, cling to your butt like a dingleberry. He keeps hanging around. He keeps producing these movies. And I know the dude's got a legacy. I get that. But a lot of people know at this point that he's got to bail out. And then finally, let's look here at Tom Jorgensen, who says here, sorry to say that Venom is pretty much a complete failure. A tonal mess that feels 15 years old, ignoring the storytelling strides that the superhero genre has made in recent years. A few fun Venom-centric moments aside, it's really nothing to offer. Don't get your hopes up. And ultimately, that's kind of what's to be expected out of Venom. Now, when the general fans get a hold of it and the general fans can start diving into it, we're going to see an entirely different scenario play out. We're going to see a different, probably tonal shift as diehards jump in, and then we're also going to hear that the movie was made for the fans and not for critics. But the general consensus from just the Twitter response to it is that the movie feels dated. It feels like it was made around the same time as Daredevil and the Hulk, which were both in 2003. It wasn't until 2002 had Spider-Man, which is great, but it wasn't really until 2004, which is when we got X-Men 2, X-Men United, and Spider-Man 2. And as a result, both of those movies kind of elevated things to the next level. And that had to do with the fact that, well, they both had very good directors, and they were continuing a story. They weren't an origin, essentially, and it really elevated things up there. But 2003's Daredevil, 2003's The Hulk were low points in current modern age superhero movies. And this one kind of feels like it's coming back from that. Now, I still plan on seeing it, but like I said yesterday, one of my friends went to go see it, hit me up afterward, and basically was like, yeah, this is about on par. So your mileage may vary in regards to this film, but you also have to know what you're going to be expecting. You also have to know what you're going to be getting, and it does feel like ultimately it's going to be a real hit or miss scenario. Hey, thanks for checking out this clip from $3 Theater. If you want to get the full audio version of the episode, you can find it anywhere podcasts are found. If you want to watch the video version of it, head on over to patreon.com/Mundane Matt and take a look at our $3 Theater perk, which gets you access to the full show that airs Monday through Friday. It's a video version of it. You get to look at this face, talk about movies and everything else on screen. It's great stuff. It helps out, and I really appreciate the support. Remember to please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.